So a kid in our class just got kidnapped. Denki got kidnapped, and it's a little bit hard to feel bad for him. Like, I understand Boruto, Shikadai, everybody there is just losing their mind as they see that message that Denki's kidnapped and come to the pier. But us as viewers, right, are we supposed to really feel bad for Denki when he buys a bunch of stuff and then he walks into a dark alley? Like, you don't even have to know that somebody is after you. You just don't do that. I'm not even in the Boruto story, and I probably have more ninja skills than Denki, and even I wouldn't do that, okay? Because if you buy a bunch of stuff and you walk into a dark alley, there might just be a perfect situation for a robber. Not that I'm actively thinking about robbers targeting me, but I don't know, a dark alley, you buy a bunch of stuff. What? You know what I personally would have done if I saw that message, that water style jutsu where you have all this blood basically forming into text and, you know, I read, "We have your friend"? I would just be like, what friend? Honestly, I would be like, what friend? And when I found out it was Denki, I would just be like, dang, well, that's just, you know, that's just the way that the world works, I guess, you know, like the weak die and the strong live. And I know Denki's a genius in many ways, but he clearly has no street sense, because he gets kidnapped, he's tied up there, he could be raped, alright? He could be given 3 dicks, okay? And I'm not saying that's the direction that this is gonna go, but like he literally says to the guy that basically, you know, kidnapped him and the group that kidnapped him, and by the way, this is the same group, keep in mind, that attacked Boruto, Kagura, and all of them earlier on in the episode. He literally says, "You don't have the guts to kill me." Like, you don't know if this dude is crazy, insane, if he would actually do that. If dude who ever so desperately needs a haircut, just out of nowhere tried stabbing someone in his own village, what do you think he would do to someone from another village? Just think about that for a second. So, I know this is a hostage situation and Denki's a hostage, they're not supposed to actually kill him, but I just find all this so ridiculous, guys, and honestly, I can't wait till things actually start to get crazier and the people who are really in the background sending all these thugs out there to do all these dumb things come out so we can deal with them, because clearly all these guys don't really have a mind of their own. They're just a bunch of followers. They're just a bunch of cannon fodder. We'll probably be done in a couple minutes, right? Like, once Boruto and everybody shows up, I could see all of them just getting slaughtered and annihilated. Like, do you honestly think a bunch of these guys could put up a real fight? Honestly, these guys look like a bunch of anime fans at a convention or something like that. Like, they don't look like, you know, ruthless killers. Not at all. This dude actually looks like a male stripper, and he was the guy really pushing things in this episode. This is the enemy number 1 of this week's episode. He could be out there dancing on a pole too. I'm not even gonna say anything else. Now, episode opens up and Boruto and all of his classmates, they're heading to the Mizukage office to meet the man of their dreams, Chojuro. Well, at least in Chocho's case, right? And as we're headed over there and Kagura's guiding us, we actually get to see Mei. We get to see the previous Mizukage who actually selected Chojuro, and we find out that there's a system for selecting the Mizukage, and oftentimes it's tied to the 7 swordsmen of the mist. They get selected because they're the strongest shinobi, and eventually they may be selected as Mizukage. I'm gonna be really honest with you guys, Mei Terumi did not age well at all. Like, I know she was a good Mizukage, especially by the Hidden Mist Village's standards, because, you know, for instance, you had the 4th Mizukage who was completely ruthless, savage, Yagura the Jinchuriki. She basically had these kids killing each other. She was terrible, right? Mei, on the other hand, came from that, right? She had to start from, you know, where the village was at when you had this really messed up Mizukage, so she did a good job. I give her credit, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, she did not age that well. She is not tappable anymore. Maybe she's still tappable. I know some of you are gonna be in the comment section like, Double 4, are you gay? And the answer to that is like, of course I'd rather have sex with Kagura than Mizukage, but just because time has passed doesn't mean that she has to age like that. You know what I mean? There was a time when I thought she was the hottest female in the series. You can't really say the same thing anymore. And I don't want people to be like, well, of course she's gonna look ugly now or look less attractive. You know, listen, man, some people definitely age better than others. For instance, Naruto, he aged pretty well, and you could say maybe that's because of the Uzumaki clan heritage, you could say maybe because it's of the Nine Tails, like, it could be a number of factors, right? He had chakra reserves that he could always go to, he didn't have to constantly wear his body down and pump out all this energy. I get it, but all I'm trying to say is she's forgettable now. I wouldn't be surprised if we never see the 5th Mizukage ever again. Ever in the Boruto series. And do you think people would really care? No, they wouldn't even remember she exists. Now, I was pretty much right about this field trip being used to promote relations between the different villages, because when they end up going to the Mizukage's office, you've got Chojuro there giving the same speech we've heard like a bazillion times. And even he himself acknowledges that. I shouldn't give this long, dragged-out speech to these kids because they don't care, they don't see things the same way. They see each other as human beings, whereas our generation, you know, we were raised, we trained so that we could be sent on missions to screw over other villages. It's a little bit different today. And boy oh boy, did all of that just serve as a bunch of hype for Kagura Karatachi. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this episode, if there's one thing that it did so well and got me super freaking hyped, is just hyping this dude up, hyping up Kagura Karatachi. Not only is he on the way to being the next Mizukage, but he's also on the way to inheriting the current Mizukage sword, Hirameke. I know I probably butcher that, but you get the point, right? And by the way, his last name is Karatachi, and guess who else's last name was Karatachi? Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, the Savage, which is why you had Iwabe later on in the episode pretty much bringing up the past, and he basically claimed that his grandfather was killed in a battle with the 4th Mizukage, or, you know, a relative of Kagura's. And all I gotta say to that is, that's tragic, you know, I'm not happy about Iwabe's grandfather passing at all, but what did you expect? You're fighting the 4th Mizukage, you're fighting a Jinchuriki, right? And you're in a battle. It's like, if someone attacks the president and you get shot by his bodyguard, you know, I feel bad for that person, he just got shot, but he ultimately just attacked the president, you know what I mean? So, I'm not surprised that in a battle against a Kage-level shinobi, Iwabe's father got butt stomped. That's what's supposed to happen, right? But even earlier on, after all the kids leave the Mizukage's office, you've got Mitsuki basically talking about the history of this guy. He became a Chunin years ago, he's on his way to becoming the next Kage, and what I love the most is the fact that Kagura himself, he doesn't feel worthy of it. He does not want it like that. Whereas with Naruto, there was a different tune being sung, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind Naruto at Kagura's age would be able to kick Kagura's ass. But at the same time, Naruto was always so persistent. He was always bringing up Hokage, right? He bothered practically everybody. Everyone knew Naruto wanted to become Hokage, whereas with Kagura, he's very low-key about it. And I would love it if they actually turned this shinobi into a reoccurring character that rivals Boruto. They fight multiple times in the series, and it's not only Boruto who wins the fights, because we see them fight in this week's episode, and that was probably my favorite part of the episode, just seeing Boruto's like sword just fly out of his hand, and if these were real swords and this were a real fight, bye-bye Boruto, right? Even though we got a little fight between those two, ultimately Boruto wasn't using ninjutsu like that. He was on water, he wasn't in his environment, so at the end of the day, I don't really know how to measure that fight, you know? I feel like if they were to really fight it out, it would be a close one because Boruto's got some pretty sick skills. I think Kagura would win a fight. Otherwise, it's just like, damn, the Mist Village is pathetic. You got like a 10-year-old kid being able to rival, you know, the upcoming, you know, future Mizukage. Like, what? But seriously, I would love to see Kagura one day wielding Chojiro's sword and just going off. Like, get some real quality fight scenes with him because there's something about, you know, the 7 swordsmen of the mist and just about sword usage in Naruto that's always so beautiful. Like, I feel like, you know, the Hidden Mist Village ninjas, they fight very beautifully. They use their body very beautifully. Okay, this is sounding a little weird. I'm not trying to dick ride the Hidden Mist Village shinobi, okay? I'm just saying. Overall, pretty average episode this week, guys. There were some forgettable moments, like the beginning with Mei and Chojuro, but as we progress in the episode, we've got, for instance, Shisuma giving orders to all these thugs right in the shadows, and even though he stopped his henchmen from going at Boruto, at the end of the day, I just think that he did that temporarily because he felt like this would have disadvantaged a greater scheme, like, for instance, kidnapping Denki, right? So he's the one putting things in all these little cunts' ears. He's the one telling them to actually go out there and target these outsiders, right? And Kagura almost gets stabbed, by the way. He just grabs the kunai, and then we've got Iwabe going in there like he was ready to make an example out of one of them. But Boruto basically stepped in and he said, listen, we can't just be killing anybody, right? Even though these guys would do that to us, we can't do that to them. We've got to be the bigger people. Oh, and we also see Boruto and Sarada eating some squid together. Pretty romantic stuff. That's how I actually envision them falling in love over some squid. Kagura ultimately comes in and he starts talking about the history of the Hidden Mist Village and how it was just completely impoverished and we can't never go back to them old days. But there's a lot of people in this village that disagree with you. And what if Kagura is secretly evil? Like, that would be a twist, wouldn't it?